Now, I've been using Sunlu's filament for some time. That, along with the Bambu Lab stuff, tends to be what I've used since I got my 3D printer. And when I got my 3D printer, my P1S, I got it as a bundle with the first gen AMS that you see here. Obviously, the current generation of AMSs come with a inbuilt heater anyway. So what I've got here today is Sunlu's option for those of us that have the first gen AMS to upgrade that to be a heater as well as a multi-material system. This allows you to not only heat whilst not printing and dry the filament, but actually keep it dry whilst printing at the same time. So if you've got something that you need to dry, you put one spool in that needs drying and the other three are fine, for example, and you've got something that you want to print perhaps out of one of the other three spools, you can still be drying that new spool that you've put in, or two spools or three spools, however many you've put in that are wet that need drying, while still printing from whatever available dry filaments you have in the AMS. The price of this is 120 quid here in the UK. So for me, I actually pre-ordered this. I've had it for ages, since it shipped back in October, I think, and we're now January. I just haven't got round to unpacking it and fitting it because I wanted to do a video about it at the same time. But for me, it was a no-brainer. It cures a problem that I have, which is if I need to dry these filaments, they have to come out, go in I've got a separate standalone Sunlu filament dryer as well. And again, because I had experience with that, it was like, well, they've done this, I'm going to buy one. So yeah, for 120 notes, which is obviously far cheaper than buying the new AMS unit with the inbuilt heater, it's really a no-brainer. So there'll be a link in the description. I have no doubt this is going to function just fine. It's super simple. If we look at the unit, this is literally the unit itself. So it's just like a replacement lid. On the back, you've got your power switch and your power cord that plugs in there, and for me obviously comes with a UK plug. On the top there is a vent, and this is super important for any filament dryer. That hot air, that moisture has to have somewhere to go. If this was a sealed unit, you just getting it hot, the moisture would eventually condensate on the inside and just go eventually back into the air that's inside the dryer. There has to be a way for that moisture to escape. So they thought of that. There's a little vent that opens and closes at the top. Obviously, once you've finished drying, you would close that to prevent any fresh, moist air from coming in and starting to then be absorbed into your filaments, whatever you might have in there. So yeah, there's nothing on the sides. And then around the front, you've got a LCD screen and a few buttons at the bottom. There are 4 buttons that control the drying operations of this, and we'll go through that later once it's wired up. It looks to be exactly the same as on my other Sunlu filament dryer, so it should be pretty familiar to me. On the inside, we have the power supply in that bottom corner there, obviously, because it plugs in there. And that then feeds 2 fans that are evenly spaced. I mean, that makes logical sense. If you're going to fit 2 fans, there's 4 rolls of filament in this AMS, so space them kind of in the middle of either end to space it evenly, which is what they've done. In the middle, you've then got a little circuit board hidden behind that warning sticker that says hot, and there is also what appears to be a temperature sensor, and I'm guessing a humidity sensor as well, and the actual heater elements are of course behind the fans. So it's a really neat, tidy unit, and it's in keeping with the design philosophy, the aesthetics of the original Bambu AMS, which is another thing I like about it. So not only is it going to add drying whilst printing, it also, because you've got a flat top, allows you to stack other AMS units on the top, which is something we couldn't do, obviously, with this because it's round. So it solves yet another problem. Now, I'm not going to be purchasing more AMS units because I don't do that much 3D printing, but for those of you that do, the ability to just stack up AMS units one on top of the other and dry and print and dry at the same time is surely going to be of benefit, I would imagine. Anyway, again, it's not something I'll do. So aside from that and the power cord, we get some instructions which tell us how to install the unit. If I get to the correct page, It starts there, so I'll be following those instructions. I'm going to assume it's pretty simple. Remove the lid, put the new one on, plug the power in. It's not going to be a whole lot to it, is there? And as far as other bits and bobs we get, we've got this bag here which has a load of screws in. I can get them out without rolling off the worktop. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 screws and 4 hinges. I think these are hinges, so I'm going to guess there's 2 screws per hinge, and then an Allen key, presumably, yes, for doing those screws up. So it looks like it should be a fairly swift install. Aside from that, yeah, that is everything we get. There's a little like Sunlu brochure here that shows you all the different filaments and what have you. Temperature-wise, I think the manual says this will do up to 80 degrees, if I remember correctly. So you can do things like ABS, ASA, PA and PC as well. So it pretty much covers most things apart from stuff that might require extreme temperatures. But again, for me, this is fine because the sort of highest filament that I would need to dry, highest temperature filament, is ASA. So perfect for what I want to do. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get this installed on here. And you can see I've still got filament actually in there. So let's get this to pieces, follow the instructions, and I shall be back in a short while with it all assembled. Well, that was, I really didn't need to like speed the video up. I could have just talked you through it real time. You literally undo 4 screws that hold the original lid on. You'll see there's hinges at either end here, these hinges, and there's just 2 screws at either side. That's what holds that original lid on. So you undo those, remove the lid, and simply replace it with the new heater lid. And that's it, literally nothing else to it, job done. So that went like perfectly. This is the angle, it doesn't go back any further than that, but it's not enough to fall forward. It would need to come like to there before it would fall forward. So it sits back plenty far enough to be able to open and close it. You no longer use these sort of clamps to keep it shut. In fact, there's nothing that actually clamps it down. But the original rubber gasket, rubber seal that runs around the edge is utilised. There is a lip all the way around here, and that sits down into it, just like the original lip around the edge of this does. So it sits down into it, but aside from the weight of the unit itself, which compared to the original lid is quite substantial. Obviously we've got 2 fans, a pair of heaters and some other circuitry in there, yeah, you know, and a power supply. It's plenty heavy enough to keep it closed against that rubber seal, to keep any sort of additional air or moisture out. So yeah, that was really, really easy. You know, I'm pleased with the way it looks. It matches the bottom half just nicely, and now you can stack other things on top as well. Really can't complain. So let's plug it in, and I'll take you through the display, which I'll do a close-up of because you won't see it obviously on there. Now, little beep to turn it on. I don't know whether you'll hear the fan. Well, you'll probably hear them, so have a listen. Not that loud. In fact, I would say they're quieter than my dedicated Sunlu filament dryer. I keep calling them heaters, but they're dryers. So, let me give you a little video of the screen here so you can see what's going on. So when you first power it up at the press of a button, a countdown timer starts of 6 hours. This is the default drying time. And as you can see, it says PLA at the top, and the relative humidity is currently 41% in there. The temperature, currently 25 degrees, target temperature 50 degrees. So we can then change, I don't know if I need to pause it, whether I can change it live. No, I can change it. So I can increase the temperature manually, or at least it was. Oh yeah, all right, okay, these are touch sensitive buttons. I was actually pressing them, expecting them to kind of depress. Yeah, so you can increase the temperature manually, decrease the temperature manually. Set, presumably sets that. Set then takes you to the time, so you can increase that time. For example, things like ASA and ABS require a longer drying time. They say 12 hours in the manual. So that would allow you to set that. Press set again, we can actually then choose PLA, PETG, TPU, ABS, PA, PC, and then RH is relative humidity. That allows us to set a threshold of humidity whereby the dryer will turn itself on and off based on that threshold. So if you wanted to leave it on permanently, maybe you use this in a business situation, you know, you have a 3D print farm, it will always maintain the desired humidity inside the dryer. Not something I'll use, but it's there nonetheless. But yeah, so you know, let's say I wanted to dry some ABS, for example, choose ABS, press set, and then it should start the timer and set the temperature automatically. Although this is saying 55 degrees as the target, I'm sure we should be drying ABS at 70 degrees. I'm sure it even says that in the manual. But that could also be because I manually put in that. Oh yes, it's probably because I manually put in that temperature. Yeah, because I've just gone back through, chosen ABS, and it stayed at 70. It's because I manually set the temperature. So if I turned this on, chose ABS, it would have put the temperature correct anyway. But yeah, you can see the timer's counting down now. And again, for ABS, I would of course have it on 12 or so hours, 10 hours, whatever it recommends in the manual to dry it accordingly. And that would be that. So a really simple operation, simple, effective. You can see the target temperature is creeping up, the relative humidity is already going down. And as I say, we've got a little vent at the top here that we would have open. So I think it's great. Obviously, I mean, I haven't actually used it to dry any filament yet, but this is exactly how the standalone dryer that I've got works. And that works just fine for drying filament. So I see no reason why this one won't work either. I think it's a double tap to turn off. Yeah, double tap to turn it off. So couldn't be any easier to install. Looks neat and tidy. Presumably, it already feels warm to the touch. Well, quite hot actually. So it's going to get hot. It's going to vent the air out. It's going to dry our filaments in situ and allow us to print and dry at the same time, should we need to, and allow us to stack other AMS units on the top if that's something you need to do. Or maybe in my case, I might actually have, I was about to say I might have like some storage on top, but to be honest, you still need to open it to change your filaments. So that is, as nice as it is to have a flat surface on the top, if you have multiple AMS units and you chew through a lot of filament, you're probably not going to want them stacked on the top because you'll have to take them off every time you want to open the lid. Maybe if you're someone like me, whose filaments sit in the AMS for months at a time, then it would be fine. And if I did have a second one, that would be the same for that as well. You know, I could have one AMS with things like ABS, ASA in that require a higher drying temperature, and then a second AMS with, you know, PLA, PETG that dries at a lower temperature, just to keep things a bit more organised and for it to, you know, function efficiently. You don't want to obviously cook PLA up to 70 degrees because it will start to go soft and perhaps melt. So yeah, all sorts of possibilities with this. But yeah, I think for 120 notes, if you've got a first gen AMS like I have here, for £120 and the 10 minutes it takes to install, I think it's an absolute no-brainer, especially compared to buying a new AMS. You know, if you've got a faulty AMS, if you've worn yours into the ground and it's got issues, then it would probably make more sense just to buy the new AMS that does all this anyway, because you need a new one. But for someone like me who's only a part-time hobbyist, I do little bits here and there, functional print, solving problems, this will last me years, I imagine. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and as always, take it easy.